Hi! Welcome to Storytime on Asher's Day. Hi, Asher! You have a book? Hurry up and bring it on over here. Thank you. Come have a seat next to me. Asher's brought me the book, Snakes on a Train, by Catherine Dennis. Cool! Good choice. Howdy, partners. I reckon we have some snakes that want to ride this train. If you're not already a subscriber, what are you waiting for? Click that bell. You wouldn't want to miss out on other Storytime videos. You're gonna need to read along with me. Alright, partner? Alright, here we go. This week's book is called Snakes on a Train by Catherine Dennis. This adorable picture book is full of sibilant sounds and other wordplay. It's as fun for the parents as it is for kids, and it's sure to be a read-aloud hit. Let's begin. Snakes on a Train. The conductor takes the tickets. As the snakes all slither on. The tracks are checked. The whistle blows. It's time to move along. Hiss goes the sound of the train. The train leaves the station as the gears begin to grind. The switcher pulls the handle, and the cars slide down the line. Hiss goes the sound of the train. Emergency! The brake snake stops the train. There's trouble in the back. The flagger waves the signal flag. The train stays on the track. Hiss goes the sound of the train. The train is in a tunnel. It's dark as night inside. Hiss goes the sound of the train. The train races down the hill as the snakes pretend to fly. A view from high as fish swim by. Hiss goes the sound of the train. The day is coming to an end. It's time for snakes to find their dens. As snakes slither off to sleep, the train rests for the night. Snakes wrap themselves in little balls and tuck their tails in tight. Shh goes the sound of the train. I guess it's bedtime for the snakes. Is it bedtime for you too? Did you enjoy that book? It's really good if you like trains and if you like snakes.
Oh.
And if you don't, it's an awesome book too. Thank you so much for joining us today on Storytime on Asher's Day. Asher learned how to read the word hiss. Did you learn how to read any words today? If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, don't forget to click that bell. Welcome to Asher's Day. Today we're going to be reading The Dark by Lemony Snicket. Have you ever been afraid of the dark? I know I have. Let's read the story and find out how Laszlo, the main character, deals with his fear of the dark. This is the story of The Dark by Lemony Snicket. Laszlo was afraid of the dark. The dark lived in the same house as Laszlo. A big place with a creaky roof, smooth, cold windows, and several sets of stairs. Sometimes the dark hid in the closet. Sometimes it sat behind the shower curtain. But mostly it spent its time in the basement. All day long, the dark would wait in a distant corner, far from the squeaks and rattles of the washing machine, pressed up against some old, damp boxes and a chest of drawers nobody ever opened. At night, of course, the dark went out and spread itself against the windows and doors of Laszlo's house. But in the morning, the dark would be back in the basement where it belonged. Laszlo would peek at the dark every morning. "Hi," he would say. "Hi, dark." Laszlo thought that if he visited the dark in the dark's room, maybe the dark wouldn't come visit him in his room. But one night, it did. "Laszlo," the dark said, in the dark. The voice of the dark was as creaky as the roof of the house, and as smooth and cold as the windows. And even though the dark was right next to Laszlo, the voice seemed very far away. "What do you want?" asked Laszlo. "I want to show you something," said the dark. "In here?" "No," said the dark. "Here?" "No, no," said the dark. "Downstairs." "Downstairs?" "Yes," said the dark. In Laszlo's living room was the biggest window in the house. Laszlo looked out at all the dark outside. Above him the roof creaked, and he closed his eyes. Now the dark was all Laszlo could see. "No, no," said the dark again. "Not there. Down here." "In the basement?" asked Laszlo. "Yes," said the dark. Laszlo had never dared come to the dark's room at night. "Come closer," said the dark. Laszlo came closer. "Even closer," said the dark. You might be afraid of the dark, but the dark is not afraid of you. That's why the dark is always close by. The dark peeks around the corner and waits behind the door, and you can see the dark up in the sky almost every night, gazing down at you as you gaze up at the stars. Without a creaky roof, the rain would fall on your bed, and without a smooth, cold window, you could never see outside, and without a set of stairs, you could never go into the basement where the dark spends its time. Without a closet, you would have nowhere to put your shoes, and without a shower curtain, you would splash water all over the bathroom, and without the dark, everything would be light, and you would never know if you needed a light bulb. "Bottom drawer," said the dark. "What?" "Bottom drawer," said the dark. "Open the bottom drawer." "Thank you," said Laszlo. "You're welcome," said the dark. By the time Laszlo got back into bed, the dark was no longer in his room, except when he closed his eyes to go to sleep. The next morning, Laszlo visited the dark in the basement. "Hi," he said. "Hi, dark." The dark didn't answer, but the bottom drawer was still open, so it looked like something in the corner was smiling. The dark kept on living with Laszlo, but it never bothered him again. The end. What did you think about that? Good. Are you still going to be scared of the dark? Well, if you at home are ever scared of the dark, just remember this story, The Dark. And remember Laszlo and what he did. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye! Everyone had gathered for the big day. The wedding of Miss Taylor Turdley was an event that every turtle within 100 yards vowed not to miss. Everything had seemed perfect, too, but then it happened. Litter suddenly blanketed the wedding party, even the bride and groom. Bags of trash had been thrown from the overpass that towered over the creek. But such behavior was no longer going to be tolerated, at least not by Taylor's brother, Thurman. As Thurman glanced over at his sister, who was in tears, banana peels covered her wedding dress and shell. "That's it! Enough is enough!" exclaimed Thurman with his fist aimed high. "Forget it, Thurman," said his father. "There is nothing we can do about the humans, son." "Forget it? How can you say that, Dad? Something has to be done. It's time for action," Thurman said. And with that, Thurman told everyone he had to go. "Where are you going, Thurman?" asked his mother. "I'm going to put a stop to this, Mom." "Don't go!" shouted a voice from the wedding party. "You'll end up in a kid's fishbowl and you'll barely have room to stretch." "You'll be soup, Thurman!" shouted another. As voices continued to ring out about the dangers that awaited him, Thurman was undeterred. He was determined to make a difference. How exactly? Well, Thurman wasn't sure. He just knew he couldn't sit by as the land he loved became cluttered with trash. Traveling a distance of any length takes quite a while for a turtle. So, to make headway on his journey, Thurman swam with the current of a nearby river. After a couple of days adrift, Thurman finally saw signs of human civilization. and everywhere he looked there was trash. Lots and lots of trash. Dumping garbage where they didn't live was bad enough, but Thurman was surprised to see people living in it themselves. Garbage was in their water. It littered the streets where they drove their automobiles, and it was even where children played. As Thurman pondered how he was going to address the crisis, several people were suddenly approaching him. Fearing for his safety, he quickly turned to hide, and then everything turned dark. Thurman had stuck his head into a muddied plastic bottle that had been left on the riverbed. Eager to escape, he pulled with all of his might, but without success. A science teacher from a nearby elementary school was now standing close to the river with her students. They were on a field trip to help the environment. The children would be planting trees, and a local newspaper reporter was on hand to cover the event. "Okay, before we get started, who knows the answer?" asked Mrs. Thornberry. Several of the students raised their hands. "Yes, Susie," said Mrs. Thornberry. "It's our carbon footprint," said the young girl. "That's right, Susie. Very good. Even though each and every one of us has our own carbon footprint, it affects everyone and everything around us." As her students began breaking ground to plant trees, Mrs. Thornberry continued to speak about the different effects that carbon footprints have on the environment. She reminded the children of the pollution that comes from factories and automobiles, and the carbon dioxide that is released into the air because of them. By planting trees that day, the children would be combating carbon dioxide by putting more oxygen back in the air. "Does everyone remember the 4 R's that we discussed in class?" asked Mrs. Thornberry. "Yes," Mrs. Thornberry said her students in unison. "Rethink, reduce, reuse." But then young Robbie Pursley shouted, "Recycle," before any of the other students could say the last word. You see, Robbie couldn't contain his excitement. He had stumbled across a plastic bottle, but it was no ordinary bottle. It had a turtle stuck in it. As everyone came over to view the bottle, Robbie held it up in the air for all to see. The local news reporter captured the moment with his camera. As Thurman began to feel his body being tugged, he feared the worst. And then suddenly, the brightness of the sun shone over him. "Wow! Look at him," said Robbie. One by one, the students touched Thurman's shell. Even through his fear, Thurman felt comforted when hearing what the children were doing for the environment. The anger that had driven him to leave his home suddenly faded away. Because of the actions of the children that day, Thurman knew there was hope for a cleaner world. "Can I keep him, Mrs. Thornberry?" "I don't think that is a good idea, Robbie. This is his home. He needs to be set free." Robbie sighed, "Oh," but did as his teacher requested. He wiped the mud off of Thurman's shell and released him. After he had finally reached home, Thurman was greeted as a hero. He learned that his rescue had made the front page of the local newspaper. Inspired by the story, every school in the region began cleaning up the trash that littered the area, to include rivers and ponds. Thurman just didn't understand why everyone back home made such a big fuss. Besides, there was much work to do, and getting stuck in a bottle wasn't exactly what he had planned. But Thurman's family reminded him of the courage it took to do what he did. His quest for change was proof that one individual can make a difference, and that each and every one of us should try. It's up to you. Okay, kids, I hope you learned something new. I hope you learned that littering and throwing your trash anywhere is bad, not only for you, but it affects the environment and the creatures that live on it. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. It would help our channel grow. And also, if you're not a subscriber, ask your parents if it's okay to subscribe. It's free, and we do new videos all the time. You wouldn't want to miss out on new stories. Hi! Welcome to Storytime on Asher's Day. We have a very special book that was given to us by author Artie Knapp. It's called Little Otter Learns to Swim. It's written by Artie Knapp and illustrated by Guy Hobbs. Little Otter started to quiver. She was scared of the mighty river. It was the first time away from her den, but Mother Otter told her to jump in. Then Little Otter was having fun, splashing about in the summer sun. Her first swimming lesson was about to begin. Little Otter's excitement caused Mother to grin. Mother Otter was patient and taught her pup with love. They swam underwater and floated above. Diving practice came next as Little Otter dove off logs. It's a great way to sneak up on unsuspecting frogs. When lessons were done, it was time for a rest. Little Otter lay snug against Mother's chest. The next few weeks were more of the same, swimming, diving, and playing water games. One morning, Mother said she'd return in a hurry, but seeing a bobcat made Little Otter worry. The bobcat was young, too. It stared and hissed. Then an eagle swooped down, but luckily missed. Little Otter was frightened and dove underwater. Although afraid, she was a proud otter's daughter. When she came up, Mother was still away. So Little Otter ran home to hide for the day. Mother Otter returned and listened intently. She comforted her pup and spoke to her gently. "The river," said Mother, "is the safest place to be, away from their predators like wolf and coyote." At dawn, Little Otter hurried back to the river. The moon was still lighting the sky with a sliver. The river was where Little Otter longed to be. There she was home with great company. The end. Now, have you ever been afraid of anything? Like trying anything new? So have I. Everyone has. It's completely normal to be scared of something different. But just like Maybe learning to swim for the first time, or riding your bicycle without training wheels for the first time, or even trying a new food for the first time. If you try it, you'll probably enjoy it and be glad that you did. So, although it might seem scary to try something new, you should definitely try. And you might be happy that you did. About North American river otters. River otters are very important animals, and not only because they're so cool. River otters live on land, but they hunt and travel in the water. That means they need healthy environments to live in so that they can get clean water and good food to eat, just like humans and all other living creatures. If you have river otters living near you, it's a good sign for your environment. Humans often destroy river otters' habitat, polluting their water, depleting their fish stocks, and tearing down streamside trees and shrubs for their own convenience or desires. The average lifespan for a river otter in the wild is 10 to 12 years. You can help North American river otters. Teachers can help students either work together as a class to write a letter or write individual letters to their representatives, offering all the reasons they want to save watersheds. Healthy watersheds make healthy ottersheds for otters, humans, and all of us. Some states still allow trapping otters for fur. Check to see if your state allows it, and if it does, you can ask your representative to stop it. Otters need their coats and humans do not.
Getting to Know Ronnie, A Story About Autism by Artie Knapp. The flickering lights gleamed by the playground pavement. They fascinated young Ronnie McAllister, who headed in their direction. But then, the flickering lights abruptly stopped. So Ronnie did too. But as quickly as the lights had faded, they reappeared. So Ronnie moved towards them once more. On each side of the flickering lights, there sat a boy. The boys were rolling marbles, which caused the sun's light to reflect between them. Although they noticed Ronnie staring in their direction, the two boys remained focused on playing their game. Now, standing directly over the two boys, Ronnie continued to watch the marbles intently as they rolled across the pavement below. One of the boys looked up and said, "Why do you keep watching our game? Don't you have anything better to do?" Ronnie didn't respond to the boy's question. That made the other boy angry. He stood up and said, "Can't you hear? He said, 'Don't you have anything better to do?'" With his eyes still directed at the marbles below, Ronnie answered, "Don't you have anything better to do?" Believing that Ronnie was mocking them, the two boys yelled at him to go away and leave them alone. Ronnie's personal aide, Miss Thornberry, who had been observing close by, walked over to see what the problem was. As the two boys explained to Miss Thornberry and another teacher what Ronnie was doing, Miss Thornberry whispered something in the other teacher's ear. Then, Miss Thornberry leaned over to Ronnie and asked him to come with her. As Miss Thornberry took Ronnie aside, he burst into tears and began slapping the sides of his head with both hands. The children on the playground were startled by Ronnie's outburst. Miss Thornberry held Ronnie to prevent him from hitting himself any further. She calmed him down by whispering softly in his ear that everything was okay. In addition to being Ronnie's first day at his new school, it was also Miss Thornberry's as well. And since the episode on the playground had just occurred, Miss Thornberry knew it was the appropriate time to speak with Ronnie's classmates about autism. So later that afternoon, she visited with the children, and there were many questions that came her way. "Why did he hit himself like that?" asked a girl in the front row of the classroom. First, let me explain to you that not all children with autism hit themselves. In Ronnie's particular case, he sometimes reacts to stressful situations by crying and hitting himself, like earlier today at recess, said Miss Thornberry. Miss Thornberry continued by asking the students if any of them knew what it was like to be the new kid at school. 4 students raised their hands. "Then you know how hard that can be," said Miss Thornberry. "Well, this is Ronnie's first day at our school, and unfamiliar surroundings are often very stressful to children with autism." "Why wouldn't he answer me when I asked him a question?" asked Tyler, one of the boys who had yelled at Ronnie during recess. "He just repeated what I said." "I apologize that Ronnie upset you, but please know that he wasn't purposely ignoring you or trying to make you angry," replied Miss Thornberry. "So his answer was a mistake?" asked Tyler in a puzzled voice. "Well, not a mistake," smiled Miss Thornberry. "It just means that Ronnie sometimes echoes the words and sounds that he hears back to their source." "I'm sorry I was mean to Ronnie," said Jason, the other little boy who had yelled at Ronnie during recess. "He can play with me anytime he wants." "Me too," said several of the other children. "That's very kind of you. That will certainly help Ronnie feel more comfortable," said Miss Thornberry. As Miss Thornberry continued to speak with the students about autism, she was happy to see the connection she had made between them and Ronnie's condition. After that first day, Ronnie did have more outbursts from time to time, but the support and understanding from his classmates helped him when he did. Ronnie always looked forward to spending time with his friends at recess. It wasn't that he didn't enjoy the slides or teeter-totters, he did, but playing marbles was by far his favorite activity, and anyone who played marbles with Ronnie knew he would only play with red ones. To him, the sun seemed to make them shine more than the rest. He liked that. The end.
Hi! Welcome to Asher's Day Storytime. Oh, I have a special guest today. His name is Cotton. He's going to help me tell the story. Today's story is called The Empty Pot, a Chinese folktale. Are you ready to begin? Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed and click the bell. Make sure all notifications are on. You wouldn't want to miss out on new storytime videos. We do new storytime videos almost every week. Alright, now if you're ready, let's begin. The Empty Pot, a Chinese folktale. The characters are the people who are in the story. This book's characters are Chang, a hardworking gardener. An emperor. An emperor is like a king or a president. And we and the other boys in Chang's village. Many years ago in China, there was an emperor who had no children. As he grew old, he needed to choose someone to take over his throne when he died. He decided to hold a contest. He invited every boy who wanted to be emperor to the palace. Many boys came to the palace. The emperor gave each boy one seed to plant. The boy who grows the biggest plant will become the next emperor, he declared. One of the boys, a poor boy called Cheng, was a very good gardener. He always worked hard, weeding and watering his garden. Cheng took his seed home very carefully. Cheng planted his seed in a pot and watered it every day. All the other boys in his village did the same. But as time passed, there was no sign of Cheng's seed growing. One day, a boy called Wei told everyone in the village that his seed was growing quickly. He boasted about how big his plant would be. Wei was sure he would be emperor because nobody else's seed was growing at all. As time passed, all the boys in the village started to talk about how well their seeds were growing. But still, the seed in Cheng's pot did not grow. As months went by, the other boys' plants grew tall and leafy. Still, Cheng's seed did not grow. He tried putting it in a bigger pot, but nothing happened. We laughed at Cheng and his empty pot. Cheng decided to ask his parents for advice. They simply told him that he was caring for the seed as well as he could. After 6 months, the emperor called all the boys back to the palace. The other boys arrived, carrying huge plants covered in leaves, flowers, and fruits. Cheng only had his empty pot, but when the emperor saw Cheng's empty pot, he smiled. The seeds I gave you had all been cooked. None of them could grow into anything, the emperor told the other boys. Cheng is the only honest boy among you. He shall be the next emperor. So Cheng and his family moved into the palace and lived happily ever after. And when Cheng grew up, he became one of the greatest emperors that China had ever seen. The end. How did you like the story? Well, it was a wonderful story, and it has a good lesson to be learned. Many traditional stories have a lesson to be learned called a moral. The moral of this story is that it is better to be honest than to cheat. Honesty will bring real rewards. Nobody knows who first told the story of the empty pot, but the story comes from China. People used to tell stories like this for entertainment before we had TVs, computers, or radios. This story has been passed on by Chinese storytellers for hundreds of years, with different storytellers making their own changes to it over time. Eventually, people began to write the story down, and so it has spread around the world. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family, or anyone you know who will enjoy this story. And we'll see you next Friday. Thanks, kids. Bye. Say bye, Cotton. Bye. Bye. Welcome to Asher's Day. Today we're going to be reading Where the Wild Things Are. Join us for story time with Asher on Asher's Day. So sit down and get cozy. We're about to begin. Where the Wild Things Are. Story and pictures by Maurice Sindak. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind. And another. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night, in Max's room, a forest grew. And grew. And grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through night and day, and in and out of weeks and almost over a year to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws, till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with this magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once, and they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all, and made him king of all wild things. "And now," cried Max, "let the wild rumpus start." "Now stop," Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely, and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then, all around from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws, but Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye, and sailed back over a year, and in and out of weeks, and through a day. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. And it was still hot. The end. We're all in this journey of life together, and sometimes we might cause a little mischief in one way or another. And although it might be fun to be in charge, it's also great to know that there's someone who loves you and will take care of you. It's also important to take care of yourself too. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe and click that bell.
Hi, welcome to Storytime on Asher's Day. Let's see what book Asher has for us this time.
Let's read about the colored kittens.
Oh, he has
Colored.
a story called The Color Kittens. Once, there were two color kittens with green eyes, Brush and Hush. They liked to mix and make colors by splashing one color into another. They had buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets of color to splash around with. Out of these colors, they would make all the colors in the world. The buckets had the colors written on them, but of course, the kittens couldn't read. They had to tell by the colors. "It is very easy," said Brush. "Red is red." "Blue is blue," said Hush. But they had no green. "No green paint," said Brush and Hush. And they wanted green paint, of course, because nearly every place they liked to go was green. Green as cat's eyes, green as grass, by streams of water, green as glass. So they tried to make some green paint. Brush mixed red paint and white paint together. And what did that make? It didn't make green, but it made pink. Pink as pigs, pink as toes, pink as a rose or a baby's nose. Boop. Then Hush mixed yellow and red together, and it made orange. Orange as an orange tree, orange as a bumblebee, orange as the setting sun, sinking slowly in the sea. The kittens were delighted, but it didn't make green. Then they mixed red and blue together, and what did that make? It didn't make green. It made a deep, dark purple. Purple as violets, purple as prunes, purple as shadows on late afternoons. Still no green. And then, oh, wonderful kittens, oh, Brush, oh, Hush, at last, almost by accident, the kittens poured a bucket of blue and a bucket of yellow together, and it came to pass that they made a green as grass, green as green leaves on a tree, green as islands in the sea. The kittens were so happy with all the colors they had made that they began to paint everything around them. They painted green leaves and red berries, and purple flowers and pink cherries, red tables and yellow chairs, black trees with golden pears. Then the kittens got so excited they knocked their buckets upside down and all the colors ran together. Yellow, red, a little blue, and a little black. And that made brown. Brown as a tugboat, brown as an old goat, brown as a beaver. And in all that brown, the sun went down. It was evening and the colors began to disappear in the warm, dark night. The kittens fell asleep in the warm, dark night with all their colors out of sight, and as they slept, they dreamed their dream, a wonderful dream of a red rose tree that turned all white when you counted 3. 1, 2, 3. Wow. Of a purple land in a pale pink sea where apples fell from a golden tree. And then a world of Easter eggs that danced about on little short legs. And they dreamed that a green cat danced with a little pink dog, till they all disappeared in a soft gray fog. And suddenly, Brush woke up and Hush woke up. It was morning. They crawled out of bed into a big bright world. The sky was wild with sunshine. The kittens were wild with purring and pouncing. Purr. Pounce, pounce, pounce. They got so pouncy, they knocked over the buckets and all the colors ran out together. There were all the colors in the world, and the color kittens had made them. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up.
Yeah, please give it a thumbs up.
And I hope you learned something new. I know I did. What about you?
I did too.
We learned that if you want to make pink paint, but you only have red and white, you can mix them together and make pink. And if you only have a few colors, you can make quite a few other colors too, like red and blue, that makes violet. And red and yellow make orange. And what else?
And also, if you don't have red, you got to buy red because you can't make red.
That's right, red is a primary color, and you need red. You can't make it.
No.
So, there are a few colors that you can't make. Those are called primary colors. The other ones are secondary colors, which you can make by mixing the primary colors together. So, Asher, how do you make green? What two colors?
Blue and yellow.
That's right. You can make green by mixing together blue and yellow. All right, kids. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button and click the bell. We would really appreciate it. It'll help our channel grow.
Bye-bye.
Huh.
And also, don't forget to hit the like.
Hi, kids! Welcome to Story Time on Asher's Day. Today, we have the book Star Wars. Even Droids Need Friends. The Star Wars galaxy is a place where great adventures happen. Along the way, great friendships are made as well. Some friends make a great team. Anakin Skywalker is fearless. Obi-Wan Kenobi is very wise. Together, they are unbeatable. Some friends love doing the same things. Han Solo and Chewbacca both love flying spaceships. Spaceships. Some friends don't like each other at first. Luke thinks Han is a show-off. Han thinks Luke is just a kid. But soon they become best friends. Some friends have the same enemies. Stormtroopers. Princess Leia and Wicket both want to defeat the Stormtroopers. Some friends argue a lot. Best friends R2-D2 and C-3PO argue almost all of the time. Some friends have known each other for a long time. Anakin is 9 years old when he meets Padme. She is 14. Some friends have their ups and downs. Lando Calrissian tricks Han, but they become friends again. Some friends are double trouble. Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba are the worst bullies you ever saw. Some friends don't know that they want to be friends. Princess Leia and Han Solo pretend they don't like each other, but really they love each other. Some friends look different than each other. Yoda is small and green. Chewbacca is tall and hairy. Some friends look alike. Logray and Chief Chirpa are both Ewoks. Ewoks. Some friends never let each other down. These two Jedi look after each other in battle. Who would you most like to be friends with? Who are you less likely to be friends with? If you could have any friend in the world, who would it be? Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. More Star Wars books read aloud to come, so make sure you click that bell. You wouldn't want to miss out.
Hi! Welcome to Asher's Day. Today we're at the beach, and we're doing yoga at the beach. I have the book Yoga Storytime. You're going to learn some new yoga poses today. Today you'll learn some new yoga poses with this book, Yoga Storytime. But first, I want to ask you all to please subscribe to Asher's Day if you're not already a subscriber, and make sure you click that bell so that you'll receive notifications of all of our new videos. We're going to learn to breathe, stretch, and be calm. Today's book is called Yoga Storytime. Can you do many things at once? For example, can you play with a toy truck on the table while having breakfast? Can you walk and talk while kicking a ball at the same time? Can you sing while playing with soap bubbles in the bathtub? Sure! It's not that hard, is it? Well, many, many years ago in India, some men realized that doing many things at one time was fairly easy, and that they could do more every day. But they wondered what would happen if they only did one thing, the simplest, the most natural one. One thing only and nothing more. Do you have any idea what this thing was? They decided that the simplest thing they could do was breathe. You're right. Breathing and walking is easy. Breathing and playing even more so. And breathing and sleeping is a snap. The difficult thing was just breathing and being aware of just that and not getting distracted. Try it yourself. You breathe, don't you? The men sat on the floor, closed their eyes so they couldn't see anything, and tried to just breathe while thinking about their breathing. It made them feel good. You are one person. If you're with a friend, you're two people. With Dad, Mom, and your friend, that makes 4 people. But if the 4 of you sit really still, breathe quietly, and think about your breathing, you will feel like the 4 of you are a single person sharing only one breath. For the men I mentioned, this discovery was very interesting. They sat and breathed, and they felt as one together and one with everything. These men definitely agreed that 1 was a good number, but also that doing only one thing is much more difficult than doing many things at once. Sit down on the floor for a little while like they did. Close your eyes. Are you thinking about your breathing? Count your breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count at least to 10, and then start over again. 10 more. These men from India came to realize, as you may also realize, that doing nothing other than breathing is not easy. Do you want to move your feet? Does your nose itch? Is your back stiff? Are noises bothering you? Do you want to eat something? Do you feel like talking or screaming? Do you want to play or run? They realized that in order to do something like this, they needed to train. What did they need to train? They needed to train their bodies so they could stand still without complaining. And they needed to train their thoughts, since those are even busier than their bodies. They realized that thoughts move faster than a monkey bitten by a scorpion. These men loved the world around them. There were many things to learn. They observed the trees, still and tireless, and they imitated them by doing the tree pose. They observed the moon, sometimes growing and other times getting small, and copied it by doing the half moon pose. They observed cats, who are so agile, and imitated them by doing the cat pose and stretching like they do. They observed lions, so brave, strong, and confident, and they imitated them by doing the lion pose. They observed snakes, stealthy and alert, and they imitated them by doing the cobra pose. They observed tortoises in their shells, and saw that inside they do not feel the cold or heat, and imitated them by doing the tortoise pose. They wanted to see the world upside down. They created many more poses and their backs became stronger and more flexible. This way, they could stay sitting and breathing for hours and hours, and they felt more and more at ease with the world and with themselves. In addition to training the outside of their bodies, they also took care of the inside of their bodies. Have you ever had a stuffy nose? Phew, how difficult it is to breathe. Then they learned how to unstuff it with salt water. They also cleaned their intestines, their eyes, and their stomach. They also discovered things to empty their mind of thoughts. They breathed fast and noisily when exhaling, or very slowly. First one nostril, and then the other. And they held their breath longer than deep sea divers. Sit on the floor and try to empty your mind of thoughts. Hold your left nostril closed, and breathe slowly through your right nostril. Out, then in. Now hold your right nostril closed and breathe slowly through the left one. Out, in. Do it 2 more times. Right, out, in, left, out, in, and again. Now, how long can you hold your breath? The men from India were grateful for this knowledge because it made them feel better, and they sang songs of thanksgiving to the stars, to the wise men, and to the gods. The men from India knew that these discoveries were very valuable and they didn't want them to be lost. So they taught them to their children, who taught them to their children, and they continue to be passed down to each new generation. This is yoga. So many things can be learned from being able to do just one thing, nothing more than breathing. How do you practice yoga? Most yoga poses are simple and inspired by nature. Did you already notice that the poses imitate trees, animals, or celestial bodies? I'll teach you only some poses. You can learn the rest of the poses later on from a teacher. To get started, set up a safe and open space where you can practice in a familiar environment. A camping mat or other thin mat will help you protect your body when you lie down on the floor and keep you from getting hurt if you fall. You need to have space to stretch and move. Don't be in a hurry. You don't have to do all the poses, just the ones you want to. Repeat them more than once, and between poses always rest a little while and breathe. Are you breathing? Start by blowing. Pretend you're holding a balloon to your lips. Inhale, blow, and inflate your imaginary balloon as much as you can. When you can't inflate it anymore, tie a knot in your balloon. Let it go. And let the air enter your body, all the air you want. Then breathe naturally. Can you inflate 3 more balloons? Now, lie back a minute with your back on the mat, bend your knees, and put your hands on your stomach. Do you notice how your stomach rises when you take in air to breathe? Count each time your stomach rises and each time it falls, up to 5 times. Let's see if you can count 5 more times. How many breaths can you count without getting distracted? Now it's time to see how some poses feel. The poses. Tree pose. Stand on one foot and pretend you are as still as a tree. Focus your gaze on one point and raise your arms as if they were branches. Today you can be a fig tree with your branches open to the sun, and tomorrow you can be a long, slender cypress that lets itself be swayed by the wind. What other tree would you like to be? Do the same thing on your other foot. Half moon pose. The moon is a satellite that revolves around the earth. Did you know that each revolution of the moon around the earth takes about 1 calendar month? The moon has no light. It reflects the light of the sun, and depending on how the sun illuminates it, we see it as a full, waning, new, or crescent. Make a crescent moon with your body. Stand up, stretch your arms over your head with your hands together, and bend very slowly to the left to form a crescent moon. Close your eyes and don't move. Pretend you are the moon in the darkness of the night sky and you light up the room. On what side of your body do you feel more light? Leave the pose, pause a moment, and before bending to the other side, consider which side of your nose you breathe better with. You can already do a waning moon. Cat pose. Get on your hands and knees and pretend you have a tail like a cat. Without moving either your hands or your legs, start arching your back as if you want to make a very high tunnel. Do you notice how your stomach disappears? And now the other way around. The tail and the head go up. The chest goes down. The tunnel is upside down. When you build the tunnel, you release air and meow like a cat. And when you flatten it, you inhale. How many times can you build the tunnel that meows without getting tired? Now think about how cats stretch out by helping themselves with their front paws. Imitate them. Stretch as much as you like. Stretch out. Roaring lion pose. First of all, the lion has to concentrate. Sit back on your heels and lift your chest. From your waist up, turn to the left. Look over your left shoulder and relax. Go back to the center, breathe, and slowly do the same thing on the other side. Look straight ahead again. Think about being a courageous and tranquil lion with a huge heart. Bend forward slightly and press your hands on your thighs. Raise your chest and lift your heart like a lion sitting on top of a rock. Inhale through the nose. Open your mouth, stick out your tongue, and roar like a lion without any fear. Then close your mouth, breathe, and when you have rested, roar again. Cobra pose. Lie face down with your hands alongside your chest, and when you're ready, push yourself up with your hands, without bending your knees, like a stealthy cobra. Stay there until you get tired. Closely watch imaginary prey. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth, making a sound, like a hissing cobra. Then rest on the floor like a sleeping cobra. Tortoise pose. Now sit on the floor with your legs forward and bend your knees so you can bring the soles of your feet together. Bring your arms under your legs and hold your feet with your hands on the outside. Pretend that your back is like the shell of a tortoise. It doesn't matter if it's cold or hot, the tortoise retreats into its shell and rests carefree. Upside down pose. Reverse the direction of your body. Feet up and head down. Imagine feet that have eyes, nose, and ears. Feet that look, smell, and listen to what is around them. Feet that take the place of the head, lively and awake, light and happy. Just breathe. Now if you like, sit on the floor with your legs crossed. Close your eyes and breathe. Just one thing. Just breathe. Nothing more.